to Pedder Unplugged. Oh, it's been a while in between episodes, but hasn't a lot happened? We had a federal election here in Australia, which resulted in an optimistic change of government. Then the new government has finally released the State of the Environment report. As damning as it was, in the heritage chapter, there was a silver lining, where a case study highlighted the credentials of restoring Lake Pedder for both natural and cultural benefits. It was fantastic to see its inclusion. I'm Tabitha Badger, and today I'm joined by Celia Watchorn. Celia is the niece of the late, great Save Lake Pedder campaigner, Brenda Hean. On the 8th of September 1972, 50 years ago, Brenda Hean and pilot Max Price went missing on a flight to Canberra, where they'd intended to skywrite Save Lake Pedder and lobby federal parliamentarians. Celia shares her story and the impact that Pedder has had on her family, both through her eyes and through the eyes of Brenda. Enjoy Celia's dulcet tones as she recites some beautifully written pieces about Lake Pedder. We talk about the search to find Brenda when the plane went missing, and how Celia herself has impacted the campaign by continuing Brenda's story and the perpetual hope that she has that one day Lake Pedder will be restored. If you haven't already heard episode 1 of Pedder Unplugged, it might be worth popping back and listening to Dick Friend's story. He was a great colleague of Brenda's. They were both part of the United Tasmania group and both dedicated much of their lives to Lake Pedder. This year, to mark the 50th year since Brenda went missing, Dick is organising a hugely ambitious tribute flight. Celia is also playing a role in it, but more on that in the podcast. So, enjoy episode 9 of Pedder Unplugged with Celia Watchorn.
So I was 14 in 72. Doesn't mean that I shouldn't have gone to Pedder, but no, it just didn't ever. And I did, Brenda, and she obviously walked in, flew in, but not that many times. We'd done lots of walks together. She'd take me camping once, but she was really a fairly newcomer to the club. In 72, she'd probably been with the club about 5-6 years. So yeah, so it wasn't something that she'd been doing for a long time because she'd been busy with other pursuits, I guess.
That's the Hobart Bushwalking Club that she was a member of.
Yeah. Hobart Bushwalking Club. Yeah, but through so many people's eyes and photographic essays, the writings and the photographs and the paintings and the Gazed Upon Lake Pedder exhibition that Philip England put together with his tintype photos was an amazing experience for me, because I actually wrote a little bit as an introduction to that exhibition, which I was really chuffed to do, not having seen Pedder. But yeah, that was like, the more I read, the more I feel that I know Pedder as a friend, but not having ever met her myself. So yeah, amazing. And what other people have written, like, do you want me to read a little bit from what I wrote?
Yeah, I'd love to hear that. Yeah.
Okay, well, far away. Pedder pennies for your thoughts. Feet beneath a Billy Tea stained doona of quiet water lies the iconic sleeping beauty of Tasmania. Lake Pedder slumbers, yet her beauty is kept awake in the minds of so many, from what they have seen and felt, from what they have heard, from what they have read. Just a privileged few have seen and loved her, treasuring memories and stories to tell. A special few have reflected her many shades and changing moods on canvas, watercolours of course, too mystical to be captured in oils. Then there were the photographic masters who have left us the truest pictures of nature's temple. Others have written of her fondly, knowingly, passionately, in awe, inspired and moved. So many have read these writings and contemplated the images to learn, absorb and feel a little of the emotion this unique wild place has nurtured. For those of us who haven't gazed upon her soft pink quartzite beach, splashed in her cool tannin waters, or felt the comfort of her guardian mountains, we may thankfully feast on what others have shared through their flow of poetry, prose, stories and pictures, evolving our own enchanted lullaby of the lake. Spend a quiet moment, indulge in your own solitude and listen for the murmur that is Pedder. And there's lots of more writings, etc., that people have written, etc., but probably too many for me to keep reading. But it's there are so many beautiful things written. Like Clive Sansom in River of Verse, Pedder was a shrine, a sanctuary. And Max Angus, writing rather than his painting, you stand. Your impression is of profound and awesome silence and the overwhelming sense of space and light. The amount of reflected light given off by more than 1 million square yards of sand is considerable and gives this sense of being in a huge bowl of light which touches the nearby peaks with its radiance. As you reach the water's edge of this tideless lake, you saw that it was hardly an edge at all, but blended almost impeccably with the sand. You looked at an infinity of mountains and sky reflected all around you in the impeccable surface of the lake and felt disbelief that you were standing on a beach nearly 1,000 feet above sea level. As a work of nature, its haunting beauty was beyond compare. To walk endlessly on its pink, white, sandy beach during summer was to walk with gods. And there's more, but
Testament to the power of the varying arts. That for someone that wasn't old enough to have seen Lake Pedder but campaigns for its restoration, it's through all of those works that help you feel like you have a connection. But also when you go to the present day impoundment, there's another being when you're there. Something innate, you know that it's a fake landscape that just doesn't belong in the southwest of Tasmania, which is so special. And do you feel that when you visit there as well? Obviously, we were down there in March together on the long weekend. What do you feel when you visit there?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Like it's so, as the fact that they call it Lake Pedder is just so insulting to Lake Pedder itself and to all those people that knew the original Lake Pedder. And like it's incredible. It's like, was it Kevin Kiernan? I just saw my temple ransacked. I mean, it's like the desecration of a church, and that's what so many people felt, that it was their shrine and it was destroyed, and for it to be flooded by the powers that be in the day, and just to be still named as it was is totally insulting and totally disregarding of nature, basically, which they were in those days. So it's sad. But the plug will be pulled. And that's what's exciting. Chris Tebbett was the very last to leave Lake Pedder. When aged only 19, he maintained a mostly solitary vigil for 7 months, rescuing stranded animals as the waters rose. And he wrote, "Living on the lake when it was being flooded and drowned, I could see that it really wasn't getting destroyed. All its features were still there, and which we know today from divers that have gone down the tire marks are still in the sand because it's not tidal. It's a silent, not moving body of water, other than water coming in, I suppose, of winter, building up a bit more. But there's nothing that would have washed away any of that beautiful sand, other than the poor trees around the edges. But they'll come back. Nature doesn't hurry, but everything is achieved."
Such an optimistic restoration project in Lake Pedder, because there's a guaranteed outcome in knowing that you're going to get the prominent feature in the beach and the original lake basin back, whereas in so many other restoration projects, now that we're in an era of serious climate alteration, you don't actually know exactly what species are going to come back where. So it's incredibly optimistic to know what you're going to get. It's, of course, the ambition of your auntie Brenda that so many young people continue to fight and have that sense of serious justice inside them. Your memories of a kid, going bushwalking with your auntie Brenda and outside of just Lake Pedder?
Well, interesting, Tabitha. I was reading, just to give a bit more of a background, reading more last night in the Whatever Happened to Brenda Hean, Scott Millwood's book. And being young, and I'd never realised she actually she didn't have much to do with wildness or wilderness, but before joining the walking club, but obviously there was a connection there and a feeling that she wanted to nurture. But she lost the love of her life was killed in a dramatic accident. I'm not sure how, something or other with a horse. and it sounded as though they were going to be a couple, but that didn't happen, obviously. And then she married at about age 40, and hence didn't have any children of her own, which was sad, very sad. When her life, from what I was reading last night, her life, and I hadn't realised because I was young, but there was a sadness there. And then she seemed to, and with walking, I think she seemed to find with the wilderness and the bush, she found she was more at peace with herself when she was in the bush. And I remember we did some long walks, and I was just little. I was an associate member, and I had a little backpack and a little badge on the back. And we camped, and we made a bed out of ferns, and we went up to and stayed with old Jack Swaits at the steps a few times. He was an amazing, legendary walking club, one of the founding members. And yeah, there's some it opened my eyes to another part of life, because we were always sailing and on the water. So yeah, it was beautiful. But she loved the bush. But she always looked so well presented and neat and tidy, and as people have always seemed to mention, her hair was always done and lipstick was on, so it was always nothing scruffy about Auntie Brenda when she was wherever she was.
I always see pictures of her bushwalking and just wonder how she ever achieved it, because I look horrific when I go out for more than a few hours. So.
I know, it's funny, isn't it? And just her whole demeanour, and even gloves. I'm sure she had a pair of like leather gloves with her. I remember one photo, and with May Smith, her great mate May, and it was funny, but she was upholding that. The pride of her family, I suppose. It's just what her upbringing was. But however we look, it's what matters inside. What's inside, it's what matters, isn't it? That passion is the same for everyone. It's a love and an understanding, and that words can't convey. It's what's within you. Yeah,
there must have been something incredibly strong and compelling inside her about like Pedder, for her to embark, firstly on the vigil on the lake as the waters were rising, and go out on the boat, as you know, a good friend of yours, and he's also on the committee, Dick Friend, took her out there, and they slept in a boat up a tree on a lake.
In a tent.
And then with May Smith as well, and then to stand for the United Tasmania group as one of their first candidates.
Yeah, it was evidently, and I did lots of reading. It's all these little episodes of talking about Brenda is so revealing to me of more of her character, because I sort of didn't realise that she and Dick, the other Dick, I can't remember, were kind of the figureheads in a way, evidently, of the party, and that meeting that they had in the hall, the one that we celebrated.
Yes.
And they spoke, and there were some hydro people there that they sort of put a vote to the people, and there was a big yay, and then something or other, but there were nays as well. Anyone saying that? And then they put it again, and the Pedder people were absolutely outshone the naysayers, which were a few vocal people, like hydro people, government people, whatever, that were trying to stop the UTG from being formed. So yeah, interesting stuff, interesting times, and she was absolutely, like, I think she'd kind of lost her first love of her life, and she'd fallen in love with Pedder in a way. She didn't, and she'd lost her second husband, who had died, and so she was just totally threw herself into this dedication, and yeah, she was on a roll. She was on a journey. It was amazing. So, which we as a family didn't really appreciate at the time, but she'd done so well to kind of keep going as she did, and she just, it was a devotion, absolute devotion.
The UTG, although they failed to win a seat, they went on to or the UTG's new ethic went on to become the pillars of what's today the Greens Party. And the global Greens Charter, of course, encompasses those original principles that Brenda would have been such a big part of establishing.
Amazing.
Incredible movement. But somehow she went from politics to, it was still part of the political campaign, was to go in a tiger moth, which is an old Second World War or maybe a World War plane, and fly to Canberra to skywrite Save Lake Pedder over the capital. And obviously Brenda's motivation there was to lobby federal politicians, because the federal government had offered intervention to help alter Pedder's scheme to try and save it. And the Tasmanian government said, stay out of our business. That's a whole other kind of activism that she took on.
Amazing. Well, in the letter that she wrote to her niece, Diane, who's the oldest of our generation, and she was saying, it sort of excitedly and totally, she was amazed at the suggestion that they want me to fly to Canberra in a tiger moth to skywrite and to talk to politicians, all the parliamentarians. And so she just sort of thought, well, why not? I think she was in same meeting. She was, and as she said to the interviewers, no, we will never give up. There's the people at Cambridge Airport, the journalist interviewing her, and said, no, well, what if the lake is flooded? And she says, well, there's a lot of British fighting us yet. We will never give up, never. I will not say the day is done, basically. It's amazing. And so off they went.
On that day, so it was the 8th of September 1972 that they took off from Cambridge just outside of Hobart to head. The first stop was, of course, over at Flinders Island, and there was the legendary ABC cameraman Peter Donnelly was at the Cambridge Aerodrome capturing footage of their departure, and I think he might have even been the cameraman capturing that interview that you just spoke of. But part of his footage, which we've only just uncovered a few years ago, there's a young Celia there watching the plane take off. What do you remember of the day?
Well, it was a surprise to see the photo or the footage. Big surprise. Well, not that much. Kind of vague, and I probably wouldn't if it wasn't still remembered and still talked about, and the footage wasn't there. I probably wouldn't remember much at all. But because it was also dramatic, I guess. A few hours later, like I would sort of remember the plane vaguely, but probably my memory is more from seeing the pictures, etc. Because there was just a few. My mum, myself, Brenda was one of 4 sisters, so my mum being Brenda's younger sister, the other 2 on the mainland. I'm not sure that was Hendrik Gout. I'm not sure who the journalist was, and Pete Donnelly, which I was, being young, like I didn't know him at the time. But then in the 35 years anniversary of the flight, I met Pedder outside Scott's Church, where the commemorative service was. And that was amazing because we knew his family. And so, so the flight, and I can't even think, in my imagination, I can perhaps see the little plane taking off. But to be truthful, it wasn't. We'd had a big year that year, and so that event wasn't that significant, I guess. And because we weren't really involved with the politics of Save Lake Pedder at the time, so it wasn't a big thing in our family at the time. But then obviously later in the day, when the news came through that there was no further sign or word from the plane, then the implication became far greater, obviously. So, but how precious is film footage to have? Absolutely.
All of those images that Peter captured at the time are absolutely priceless. And Scott Millwood's book and film as well, Whatever Happened to Brenda Hean, has embedded in another generation too what actually happened from a series of sides of that story on the day. Of course, there was controversy that the aerodrome hangar where the tiger moth was housed had been broken into, a lack of police investigation, and a myriad of stories of what went on. Did any of that register with you at the time, or was that something that came along later as all of these stories started to be told?
Certainly not immediately, but then I think at the time I remember that there were obviously planes searching from both Hobart and the mainland. I think there were search planes, and the search went on for 10 days. I've actually got the search details at home, which is amazing, to see the area that the planes did cover. But the fact that the case was then closed at 10 days, and no more searching, nothing. It was basically just a cap was put on it, which doesn't happen, that I believe, with missing persons. I think they're always open-ended cases until something definitive is found. So that in itself was a bit, there was nothing much we could do at the time, because we were, our family was dealing with having lost my dad, my mum's husband, about 6 months earlier. So we were kind of in the midst of rekindling our lives, I suppose, in that respect. So this next tragedy was on the back of that. And obviously the plane locker having been broken into, they believed, by an axe, hacking off the lock, which I don't know how that wasn't discovered before the plane took off. And then the emergency beacon which should have gone off if the plane had hit the deck, that was found hidden behind fuel drums in the corner of the plane locker, or the plane hangar. There were a lot of things. One theory that sugar was put into the second fuel tank, so that about St Helens, when fuel tanks were switched over, the second tank was contaminated. So who knows? But it's strange that nothing at all. There was flots and jets, and fishing boats were dredging up bits and pieces, and that there was nothing ever. I think my poor mum was brought a dress that was found in a fishing from a trawler, but it wasn't Brenda at all. It was a bit crazy in the cardigan or something, but there was nothing. There was thoughts that maybe the plane had been buried on the beach somewhere, or who knows. I don't know. But my two brothers actually went up not long after and had a look up Eddystone Point Way, Gorgeous Rocks, I think it was. Felt it was very eerie. I think Derek and Stan in the book, Whatever Happened to Brenda Hean, they did a good search all through the bush. And if it had gone down in the bush, there would have been fire, you would think, because it was all plywood, canvas, and the only bit of metal was the engine. And Max knew the plane inside out. He knew every bolt, and it was all refitted and done. So, yeah, it was sad. It was sad, but it was sad for both, obviously. Max and Brenda, it was absolutely devastating. But in hindsight, it was kind of Max kind of being taken along for the journey. Electric Eric and Alan Knight, and they were just so hell-bent on these dams and hydroelectricity, which, yes, Tasmania has clean green energy now, but as usual, there is always extremes in life that bring humanity back to a common road, which is from the extremes you find what works for everyone, and lives are lost. History goes on, and history is repeated, and man will probably never learn, but goodness me, it's crazy, isn't it?
But your family has absolutely, in the last 50 years, still maintained a really strong connection and continued on Brenda's fortitude and fight for Lake Pedder. So we've got 50 years later, this September, a tribute fight being planned, and your family are well and truly in part of it. Young Charlie Ditcham has been out spruiking the event at Women's Pilots Conference, and Ollie is going to be the support pilot in a Cessna to fly alongside the Tiger Moth to Canberra this year.
Yeah, which is huge. It's really exciting. And only Brenda would be so chuffed and proud of them both. It's amazing. And it's so good that the younger generation is sort of coming through and taking up the cause, isn't it, Tabitha? It's really special. And they're both so excited. And it's been totally through their own, through their dad, Jeremy, really, I guess, through his interest and the Ditcham family side that has engendered their interest. But yeah, it's a beautiful thing to see. It's lovely. It's going to be amazing to see those two planes, Millie and Ollie and the Cessna, landing at Canberra, which they will do this time round. Well done to Dick, friend, as in he's done an extraordinary job, and the coordination and his passion has been amazing, and his dogged determination, and to his support person, Julie, his wife, hats off. It is amazing how if there's always hope in life, and how it keeps on coming through. It's human nature, isn't it? And you've got to follow it. The pages of history keep being written. This is going to be history, as was planned 50 years ago, is going to evolve in a different way. And look out Parliament, look out Canberra. It's amazing. And so what an amazing thing when you think of Bob Brown and the foundation success now with the Tarkine and the Chinese mining company that was building the tailings dam, or the dam for tailings. I mean, that's a wonderful thing to have happened, and on the back of 50 years ago, really. Like, life has changed, the awareness is there, and people have to be accountable, and that's what's so precious, which means lives weren't lost in vain. Like Alagus and Pedder, all of them. Yeah, amazing.
Hope is never lost, and it's that enduring hope and legacy of the Pedder people that's really kept the Restore Pedder campaign alive to this present day. How do you see, in a completely idealistic frame of mind, in the contemporary world of mass biodiversity loss, the State of the Environment report just came out, and we knew how bad the decline of Australia's environment was, but to have it written down and see it in front of you finally released by the government is pretty damning. How do you see the restoration of Lake Pedder playing out?
I think the wheels are so set in motion, and it will happen, but it always seems to be someone in power that thinks, hey, this is a good idea, no matter how much people push and put that idea out there, that it will happen, but it will have to be someone in power that wants to be known for something amazing, and they'll suddenly think, well, whether it's Tanya Plibersek, I don't know, but they'll want to be known and remembered for doing something amazing, and it's just got to be the right time, I feel, and person grabs the baton and runs with it and does it. It's taken so much energy and diligence, and dear Melva Trahana's continuing on Alagus's legacy, and so many people have kept on doggedly, and if that continues, then Restore Pedder will never go away, and Pedder will be restored, but let's hope it's sooner rather than later that plug is pulled on beautiful Lake Pedder.
Big thank you to you for all the effort that you've put in over the years in the continuity of the campaign and continuing to share Brenda's story, and all that's really important. And one person in power is ultimately going to make the decision that this happens and sign off on it. But the number of people on the ground that have dedicated so much time in their lives to do this, in Bob Brown's book, Lake Pedder, from the early 1980s, he summarises it as the Lake Pedder people, and it's absolutely the best way to describe this little community that have just never given up hope, and they've continued to fight for other important causes like the Tarkine or the Franklin River. At the same time, it's stopping destruction and the restoration as well, which is so important. And they're incredibly busy people that have so much time to give everything, but they've never given up on Lake Pedder.
It's humbling to be able to say we're Brenda's family, because, and without the Pedder people, Brenda would have been gone. And they say someone has never died if they're still talked about. And my goodness, Max and Brenda and the Lagos and Melva and all the Pedder people and yourself, Bob Brown, no one's going to go away, and no one will ever be forgotten, and Pedder will never be forgotten, because there's such a faith there that Pedder will be restored and Sleeping Beauty will be woken, and it will happen. Never say the day is done.
Thank you so much to Celia Watchorn for sharing her amazing story and for continuing the story of her auntie Brenda Hean. If you'd like to learn more about the history of Lake Pedder or to find out about the 50th anniversary Brenda Hean tribute flight coming up on the 8th of September 2022, then head to lakepedder.org. I'm Tabitha Badger, and thanks for listening to Pedder Unplugged.